Hey everybody, welcome to the Cool Crone. Thank you so much for coming to my live stream. I'm here with Kim from Intuitiview, and sorry for being a few minutes late, but I really wanted to chat with her before we started. So we did that, and sorry about that. So Kim, welcome to my channel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Colleen. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. I'm excited to learn more about you, more about what you're doing, and also just to share you with my viewers and whoever else is here. Wow, look at all this. Oh,
I
this
would
is
love
great.
that.
So just to let you guys know, I'm really terrible at responding to stuff during a live stream because I'm really a baby at this. This is only like the third live stream I've ever done.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
so I'm just gonna, if I respond to you, then you'll see the top of my head, right? So I'm going to do it just a little tiny bit. But Kim, I have some questions for you. So if it's
Okay.
okay, can I go ahead with those?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? And
Oh,
can everyone hear us? Okay. Okay. All
yeah,
right.
let's just
So
go
make
with that.
sure.
You guys
Okay.
can hear us okay?
All right.
Okay. Okay. All right. So how did you get started reading for other people?
Um, well, I feel like everything I like stumbled into when I started the channel. Almost right away, I had people asking, "Do you do private readings? Do you do private readings?" I didn't at that time. I did for family, and I would for like their, family friends and that kind of thing, but nothing like regularly. So, and I was very intimidated. So I started doing just kind of free email readings, and because I thought then I could take as much time as I needed to. I was still a bit, it took me a while to get messages. I'd have to kind of sit, and now I have a whole system that I've figured out that works for me, but at the time I was still very much like having to sit and meditate and get into a state, and then I could, it was very long thing. So I started doing those, and then I got over my fear of charging people. I kind of had to, because I thought if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to. And I think a lot of spiritual people have a really hard time with starting to bring in that money factor, because it feels it's just a hard thing to get past. And so
Yeah.
once I could do that, I felt like, okay, we're off and running. And then I started doing, that's how I started doing readings. And I just kind of started, and then just, if I thought I'm just going to keep doing it as long as it feels right. And that's how I started.
So you didn't start doing readings for people until you started your YouTube channel? Is that right?
I did it all backwards because I
I
got them.
love it.
I kept getting the message about. It was during the Trump years, and so it was like right after he was elected, and I kept getting the message, he's going to be out, he's going to be gone, and the Democrats are taking the house. I mean, I got all these messages, but the main one was, he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone. We just need to get through the next little while. He's going to be leaving. Don't, and also I felt like people were afraid, and it would help people not be afraid.
Mhm.
And I had no idea the roller coaster we were going to be going on, but that's what made me. And so I tried to get my sister to start a channel. She's a tarot reader. She's very good. I tried to get her to do it because I wanted to just get the message out and then be done with it, and then hide in the back. Because I hadn't come out with this stuff to anybody, that I was doing this. I just did it for family, that kind of thing. And this message was very persistent. And so I thought, okay, I'll do one video with my daughter. I'll put it out there. If anything happens with it, fine, I'll keep doing them. If not, I did my job, and I'll just go, slink in the back and leave me alone. And that's it. And then it just kind of, it just kind of went from there. And I just kind of left it in my guide's hands and thought, I'll just do this, and whatever happens, I'll just go with it. And that really is how it's been.
Wow.
I just kind of go with whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
When I say I stumbled into it, I stumbled into it.
yeah, you really did. But that is the
I
best thing to do with everything. Leave it in their hands and just go with it, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you got to do. So this might sound like a strange question, but are there physical sensations associated with the way you read?
Yes. Well, one consistent one is chills. I get the
Mhm.
chills when I know, that's my guide's way of saying, either that's exactly right or you're on the right track.
Mhm.
It's usually and usually they just did it to me because it's like you're on the right track or that's exactly right. You've got it. It's like on the nose. That's it. Um, so that's just kind of a validation thing that happens, and that happens all the time. That happens during private readings, during the YouTube readings. I'll say I got chills with that, and that usually means like that's right. It's like putting a period at the end of the sentence. That's it.
Yeah.
During a lot of mediumship readings, I'll get more physical things. But I'm an empath, so I get a lot of feelings. So
Mhm.
I'll get a little word, a little picture, and then I take it to my feeling. What do I feel? And then I'll kind of be able to get more information that way. So
Mhm.
I use a lot of emotions and feelings. I'll use them as a tool. And then sometimes with mediumship, I'll feel a heart palpitation or I'll feel like a headache, and it'll tell me something about the way they passed or
Yeah.
what they're going through now or what they
Mhm.
have gone through. Yeah. So, and I just try to go with it. I don't get, I think if you're open to that kind of stuff, it happens more. I think some people get afraid when it's physical things
Yeah.
sometimes, but I'm not afraid of it. So I tend to get it quite a bit. But yeah, so that's how I use it, and I use it as a tool.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I get the emotional thing with things too. Like
Mhm.
we were a few weeks ago, they had asked me, this was back in probably February, and they were asking me if I wanted to have our group come to my house for a thing. Was it time yet? Were we open enough yet? And at that time I wasn't, and I just had a real emotional response to it. And I didn't say this to them. I didn't write it to anybody, but I just was like, no, we're not doing it. I just kept it very short, which is not like me. Usually I'll have a big, long out explanation. I'm a Libra. I have to explain everything, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or have any misunderstandings. And sure enough, when the day came and we were not meeting here, we had a horrible storm. Just
Mm.
horrible. It would have been awful if everybody was trying to go out in this storm. And I was like, so how come I couldn't translate that? I knew that it was a horrible idea, but I didn't know why. I was attaching it to the whole wearing a mask and COVID and all that crap. It was
Mhm.
very weird. But anyway, yeah, the emotional thing. Yeah, I relate to that. That happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, uh, do you have like a preparation that you have to do? You talked previously about, in years past or before, you really had to do all this stuff. I can relate to that. But now what do
Yeah.
you do?
Now I usually say a prayer of
Mhm.
protection, a kind of a prayer of intention
Mhm.
before I go into my readings, and that just kind of puts me in the proper headspace. My guides are alerted to, like, it's time, let's go. It's showtime or whatever. It's time to go.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And then I also I which if we do questions, you might hear me scribbling. It just kind of helps me to just kind of keep in like a meditative state so that I can receive information much more quickly, much more easily. I used to have to be take a long time and kind of
Mhm.
get into a meditative state and sit there for a long time, and just as the trust builds, and I'm sure you found this too, the more you trust, the more you get.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. The more you trust, the more you get. The more questioning you are, and oh, is that right? Or the more you go into that more mental state, the harder it is. The more you
Okay.
trust, the more it just flows. And
Yeah.
so, and that's been learned over a lot of time. It just wasn't overnight. It's one of the hardest things to do. So
Yeah.
I'm not making light of that at all, but if that is one thing I've learned, the more you trust, the more you get, and the easier it is.
Yeah. Now you talk about you scribble, you write. Do you have you ever done automatic writing?
I haven't. I know what it is, and I think one reason that I don't is because the scribbling is to keep me out of that mental space, and I think writing, it almost to me feels like you might be kind of in between, and kind of going back and forth from the mental state. And I do that
Mhm.
anyway because when I read, I get the information will come in, and then I have to interpret it So that's when I go into my just normal me,
Yeah.
my brain. I have to interpret it. So that's where the mistakes can come in too, because you
Yes.
have to interpret what you get.
Yes.
But with writing, I would think it would be more of a back and it would be a balancing act, basically. So I've never tried it before, but
I think it's a really interesting thing. My experience has been that it's kind of a segue from learning how to shift from one side of your brain to the next.
mhm,
I had a girlfriend who did not trust her psychic ability at all. And she had tarot cards. I taught her how to really use her tarot cards. We did a lot with like Ouija boards. Sorry out there if you hate Ouija boards, but
I have something to say about Ouija boards, but
oh,
remind me in a second.
oh, okay.
Okay.
We'll come back to Ouija boards.
Okay.
And in the middle of our doing some stuff with the Ouija boards, she said, I want to write. Give me some paper and pen. And she just started making big loops. And for like a week, because we were doing this like every day, we're, college, what do? You drink wine and you do the Ouija board. And and she just started doing all these loops. And after about a week, she started to form letters. So she wasn't cognizantly writing, she was just letting it go. And the
Mhm.
more she let it go and the more she trusted what was, and this is in a matter of 2 weeks, she went from not trusting herself at all to, oh my God, I'm getting these wonderful messages. And that was, God, I hate to say this, but that was 30 years ago. She makes her living as a psychic now.
Oh, wow.
That is her thing. And we started with the stupid little Ouija board and the tarot cards and everything. And I'm not making my living doing that yet. So love to, but not doing it. But yeah, and then I know that Esther Hicks, in her process of getting to the point where she could just get Abraham coming through,
Mhm.
she also for a while did automatic writing because her hand was moving and she didn't know what to do with it.
Mm.
Jerry put a pen in her hand and some paper and she started making scribbles and eventually they said, oh, go to the typewriter. And then she started typing out. But I think it was kind of
Interesting.
like a passage, like a
Right.
segue, a
A
transition,
segue, yeah.
a way for her to shift because you have to shift so much when you're doing
Uh-huh.
this and really
Yeah.
grasp in it. And we're taught from a very early age not to do those things,
Right.
not to let go, not and so that's my theory. I think it's just a passage, but anyway.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like, yeah, and I guess that's what I kind of mean by like a tightrope. It is kind of going back and forth that, back for. And with Esther Hicks, that almost makes me think too that there's something in it in automatic writing that's a little more like pure channeling. Because I
Yeah.
don't think of mediumship as pure channeling. I'm still interpreting. I'm
Mhm.
not just letting it. It's coming to me and it's flowing through, but I'm still coming in and interpreting. And
Mm,
when you channel, it just is like it just comes straight through. There's no interpretation, it just comes.
mhm,
And that's kind of what now that you're saying that and Esther Hicks, I'm thinking maybe it's more like true channeling
mhm.
than
Well, and
I
there's
thought.
some people when they channel their whole body is
Right.
channeled and sort of inhabited, and
Mhm,
so it is a very kinesthetic thing. It's a very physical thing when
mhm,
you're doing the writing too, and that impulse that's coming, I keep pointing in my head because it's coming somewhere, from without to within and
mhm.
going through your muscles to your arm and your hand, and so it's this connection of all of these things it's fascinating. It's very
Yeah,
interesting.
it
It's really
is.
interesting.
It is really.
So do you want to say what you want to say about the Ouija board?
Yeah, so I a long time ago, or not a long time ago, a couple of years ago, I did a video about tools.
Mm,
Because people asked about like, because I don't really I use cards, tarot cards with my daughter, with my husband, because I definitely have a bias with them. I want everything to be perfect for them. So I have a bias. And so I use the cards as validation so that I'm not going off in my own wishes for them or whatever
mhm,
when
mhm,
I read for them. But normally I scribble and that's really all I do. I'm the tool. So I use myself as the tool. My stuff is the
mhm.
tool. So but I did a video on tools and what it was very interesting because when I asked my guides about the Ouija board, they said there's nothing wrong with the Ouija board. The problem is that if you look at the other tools that we've been talking about, because I did it last, I think, and
Mhm.
they said, the other tools that you looked at, they're all in kind of the New Age section. If you go into a bookstore or into a store, they're kind of in the New Age section or the religion or the spirituality. The Ouija board is always in the game section.
Games, yeah.
And they said that it's partly our, yeah, I'm getting chills with that again. So that they're letting us know that it's our intention with it. It hasn't, the Ouija board itself is just a tool. It's like any other tool. It's our intention. And so if we buy it in the game section and we think this is a fun game, you're going to pull in not necessarily evil spirits, just trickster spirits, just fun spirits saying, hey, you want to play? We'll play, let's play. But it is just like any other tool. And if you bring it into your home with respect and an understanding that you're talking to the other side in a way that you want enlightenment or you want help or you want to understand it better, you'll pull that in.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Deborah Grisco just did a super chat. Hey, thanks. Thank you.
Oh, how nice.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you can connect. If you're not a medium, you can connect to the other side. If you're careful, you have to set up ground rules, and you have to, like any good playground, nobody should get hurt.
Yeah, your intention is everything. If you go in to pull in weird, evil spirits, bad spirits, negative, you'll pull that in. But if you're there to just learn, to understand, to have a wonderful experience, to connect, and you put those, just ask for protection and guidance. It is there. It's there for everybody. It really, really is. And the tool is just a tool. It's your intention. Yeah. So that's all I want to say about the Ouija board. Cause that,
thank you. No, I think that's very interesting. Thank you. And very affirming for me, because I think it is a good tool. So, my next question is, do you have to recover after a reading? Does it tire you? Does it take energy away from you? Or how is it when you've done like a whole bunch of readings? How do you feel?
I do only 1 or 2 a day, and that's just me. Some people can do them all day long and it does not affect them at all. But I find that because I also do it's also, before I did this, I was a preschool teacher. And
great.
I liked being having my hands in lots of things during the day. I didn't like just doing one thing. So we would have, art time and music time and, eat together. We'd go outside. It was very much a hodgepodge. And that's how I work best. And that's what I've set up for myself. So I have a couple of an hour or so when I read, I work on I answer emails. I work on my channel. I also have a membership, so I work on that. And then I do my own spiritual work where I'm doing meditation things. So it's a hodgepodge throughout the day, and it definitely takes up my whole day every day. But the readings that I do, it's just one section of my day. It's not the whole day. There are people that will just do readings for an entire day.
Yeah.
That's not me. I can't. It just doesn't fit me. I like a kind of a myriad of experiences throughout the day. I can't just do one thing. And that goes for anything. That goes for any job I would have or anything I would do. I cannot just do one thing straight through the day. I have to kind of be moving around, and I don't know if it's just the way my energy flows or the way it is for me, but that's just how it is. And I wish I could do more, because then I'd have more spots available. But I just have found it's just not, it doesn't work well for me. And I want the people, it's not really about just me. It's about the people I'm trying to serve as well. And so I want to be, if I'm doing what's right for my own energy or space or whatever, I'm in better service to others. And so that's really ultimately what, it's about. It's a partnership between me and them, you.
Yeah. So you feel doing just the 2 or so a day, then you don't feel any mental or physical repercussions from the reading, right?
Nope.
That's good.
Nope, I don't. And I also feel like because of that too, I feel like I'm not in any time crunch. I feel like I can take my time. If I go over a little bit, it's fine. If I, it it's just so much more, it's just easier. It's just easier, and it just flows better. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. And I think any reader should, they have to really pay attention to that stuff, and how they feel afterwards, and how they feel at the end of the day, and take all of that, because I didn't want to admit to myself that I can't do more than a couple. I just can't. And it doesn't work well. And I didn't want to admit that at first. So I was doing them back to back to back to back. And then
Mm,
I was just like, it's wearing me out.
yeah.
It's not going to work for me. And I
Yeah.
felt really bad, but it's like, yeah, it just doesn't work for me. So,
Uh,
well,
well, I understand that totally. I do the New York Ren Fair. It's one of the bigger Ren fairs around here. Every summer they do, actually it goes into the fall. It's like 2 months, every weekend for 2 months, and you have to be all dressed up and everything. And what works for me is I share we basically rent a booth from another woman who does readings, and they have a little group of tarot readers or psychics or whatever. We all sit near one another, and she does one day and I do one day. So I'll do Saturday and she does Sunday. But on those days, yeah, it's back to back to back to back to back. And it's a lot, but I know it's that just one day. And that's all I got to do is get through that one day. But
right. Well, and that's different. I mean, in that, yeah, I mean, there's probably a way that, you get in that mental space, like you said, I'm preparing for this one day. I know it's coming. I'm
Mhm.
getting ready for it. And then also you can let down afterwards. You have
Yeah,
time afterwards to kind of come down, and get back to your, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's really
It's
something.
very individual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a real you have to have some kind of a, I don't know, a structure to do that. But anyway,
Right.
okay. So we already talked about my next question.
Right.
And okay, so the next question I have is, how have your abilities changed over time?
Oh, gosh.
And we're only here for an hour, Kim.
A
So
lot. I was gonna say, well, they start in the beginning of, in the beginning, I would get a lot of, um, clairvoyance. And I have a big catalog of movie and television. So my guides would use, and they use if people don't know, I'm sure they do on this channel, but if they use your imagination, they use your memory bank to, when you're using clairvoyance. So they will pull things out. And I had a huge catalog of movie and television. So they would give me a scene from a movie or a scene from a television show, and I could put it in context right away because I knew the episode. I knew what they were trying to say. And the first message I got, which we were talking about before we came on, was the end scene of King Kong, where King Kong is on the top of the Empire State Building and he falls. And that was what they were telling me about Trump, was that this was
oh,
going to be him. And so I kept telling them this is what I was seeing, and I was able to put it in context. I'm like, okay, well, that means that he's going to go down angry. He's going to go down with tons of stuff coming at him. It's not going to be just one thing. It's going to be a ton of stuff. Um, it could be happening in New York because he was on the Empire State Building, right? I mean, you could go as far as you want with this, but
yeah.
that's what I was seeing. And that was the first
Wow.
image that came to me when I started the channel. And that's what I shared with people. Um, but that's where it started, was a lot of clairvoyance, and then it went to clairaudience, and where I could hear lots of things, and accompanying those were always feelings. I could always feel, because when I went with the image of the King Kong, I could feel the anger, the frustration, that all of the things that he was feeling,
Yeah.
and so that's, and it's kind of a bouncing around for me of that stuff. I get a lot of, now I get, it kind of starts with clairaudience, I get clairvoyance, and then I take it to those feelings that give me more information, because I call myself an intuitive empath. I'm really am an empath. That really is where, that has always been there. It's just been always so natural for me to feel things, and be plugged into emotion, that I didn't think of it as an ability. But that's part of it, right? It's a discovering that stuff, that it's like, oh, that's actually connected. That's why that's always been that sensitivity, that as a kid I was always told, you're too sensitive, you're too sensitive, you do it. That was my main connection. Like you said, you're claircognizant. You said more of that clear knowing. That's just that's your natural, that's your natural way of being. That's your main ability or your dominant ability.
Mhm.
Mine was always empathic, except that when I knew that it was like when I started getting clairvoyant messages that fit more with my concept of what a psychic was, somebody
Uh,
that sees things.
yeah,
So when I started getting those kinds of messages, I'm like, oh, this is quote unquote psychic, because that's what I
yeah,
recognized as being psychic. This stuff was so natural for me, this in empath part. I didn't think of it as being like an ability, it was just who I was. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does make sense because there's been just probably thousands of times in my childhood. I'm the youngest of 4, and everybody in my family is pretty psychic. And
Mhm,
so it was just, everybody was just kind of accepted that, but they didn't call it that. They didn't label it.
uh-huh,
And I know many times I would spout up with something that, just a solution to something or an answer to something, or in the family dinner table. And, people would kind of look at me and then they'd go, yeah, right. And they'd just blow it off. And then it would be
mhm.
true in a week or whatever.
Right.
But
Uh-huh.
we all had that, so there was nothing really that special about it, so there was absolutely no confirmation that that was anything at all to think about.
Right.
And
Right.
as I got older, I realized that I just like to be right, you know? Capricorn rising, I like to be the one in charge and the one who's right. And so that ability to just kind of know things was good, but then there was the ego involved because I
Yeah.
did like to be right.
Yeah.
So it didn't work. It was very 50-50. So after
Mhm.
a while, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to throw the cards and that's going to be it. Because that I can
Right.
count on. But anyway, yeah, very interesting how we interpret these things based on our culture, on how we grow up. It's
Right, right.
really
And good for you for knowing, like, my ego is playing a part in this, so I'm gonna go to the cards to kind of thwart that a little bit. So
yeah,
good for you for knowing, for recognizing it and not just being like, well, I'm just gonna power through and it doesn't matter. It's like you remedied it, right?
yeah.
That's great. That's how you grow.
Well, I started doing astrology when I was very, very young, and once I got a little bit older and really kind of understood the world more, and when I would do charts for people, I would spend the whole reading just staring at the paper, and I swear, just the symbols, just like it was like channeling almost. The symbols just told me things,
Mm,
and the readings that I did when I was very young, there's no way that I could have known that stuff. There's no way I could
right,
have read the astrological texts and understood what they were saying when I was 10 years old. There's just no
right,
way that
right.
somebody that young would be able to grasp that. So it was coming from there. It was coming
Mhm.
from somewhere. And I think that um, the symbols of astrology, I've just always known what they were. They just always made sense to me. That's a
Right.
little weird, so, that was one thing. But I can't seem to do that flow through with knowledge without the symbols or the cards or something like that.
Mhm.
It's,
Mhm.
weird. But I do have very often, I do have those flashes of knowing things now that it's a little better. I'm a little better now. I think I need to spend some time really developing it. But anyway, we're here about you. So we'll talk
Right.
about
Well, no, but it's fascinating. I mean, we're here about this, right? I mean, I
yeah,
think everybody, we all have we all have the ability to connect. We just need to figure out what is our way,
yeah,
or where do we start even? Because
yeah,
it always expands. It always expands from there. You think I'm just this one thing, and then it just grows. So,
yeah,
yeah. So.
yeah. So let's see. Well, is there anything in that realm of clairvoyance and psychicness that you cannot do that you would like to be able to do?
I think I'm very interested in I I'm interested in like pure channeling where you
Mhm.
just channel. And we kind of talked about like Esther Hicks and
Yeah,
the Seth material, that kind of stuff. I don't think I'm there. I think I'm getting there trust wise. I feel like I have a lot of trust on the others in the other side and in my guides and in um you know, I do have a lot of trust, but I think the trust that takes is it's next level. And I think someday I'll get there. But I think that's something I'm very interested in and intrigued by.
Yeah, you will get there.
I hope so. Thank you for saying that,
Yeah,
Colleen.
yeah,
Colleen believes in me.
yeah. So, no, it was a psychic thing, Kim. I just know
Right.
psychically that you're going to
That's
do.
true. I know. I know.
Um,
I know. That's right.
so, do you have a moment, as you know, an intuitive? Do you have a moment that sticks in your memory as particularly thrilling about having this ability? Besides Donald Trump, besides the King Kong.
I was going to say
That to me,
the night of the
thrilling.
night of that election was pretty astounding to me, and pretty awesome. But so I'm trying to think something very. How did you put it? Something.
That's thrilling. Something that you thought, oh God, I'm so glad I could have done that.
Um, to be honest, I mean, for me, it's always things, like, to me, when I have that feeling, it's more with mediumship, and I think it's because it means so much to the person I'm talking to. It means so much to them to get some kind of validation that, yes, you are talking to my loved one and they are okay. That relief and that feeling of joy that comes from that, from feeling that from the person I'm talking to, that I have just given them a weight off, knowing that yeah, I'm getting chills again. A weight off of knowing my family member's okay, everything's okay, I'm okay, we're going to see each other again. That is, it's not, there's nothing like it in this world to give that gift to someone. And just being, it's not me, right? I'm a part of that, but just being a part of that relief to someone, that gift to someone, is amazing. And aside from that, though, that's my personal thing. But aside from that is teaching, seeing other people be like, I can do this. I figured it out, or I know I can do this now. I know this is what, that is also such a joy to me. I love it. I love it. And in mentoring, same thing. Getting those moments where people are like, I got it. I got it. I can do this. I know that I can. There's something to this. I can do it. It's just, yeah, that's pure joy.
Yeah,
Pure joy.
I can tell. Yeah, that would be quite thrilling. That definitely would be thrilling. So, in your lifetime, though, has it ever occurred to you that being intuitive the way you are is a burden in any way?
Um, there is um, there is an amount of responsibility that comes with it, and I think that um, once you're clear with yourself about what your responsibility is, where it starts and where it stops, um, it makes things so much easier. Because if you're unclear and you go into reading, you can really, really get lost in the guilt or the or the
Yeah.
wanting to keep controlling things, or wanting to, you know uh, it can, your ego can get very, you can get lost. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
You have to be very understanding and very respectful of the fact that people have free will. That very early on, I learned that I am the telephone. I'm going to be wrong sometimes,
Hmm.
because I have to interpret, and that's where the errors can come in, because I'm human. A I'm not a, I'm not a spirit, and I'm not a machine. I'm a human. And so I'm going to make errors. And I'm also, I also have learned that if I stay in learning mode all the time, knowing that every reading I do, I'm probably going to learn something, it keeps you humble. And I think that you have to keep that in check, because I think that's what can mess up a lot of great psychics. I think that ego, and that um, having that ability to know stuff that others don't know,
Hmm.
um, can be it can feed that really inflated ego part of ourselves that we there is,
Yeah.
somewhere in all of us, we have that. My ego tends to be the other way, where I'll start doubting myself. That's my ego tendency.
Yeah.
But other people, when you know other things, things that other people don't know, or things are coming to you that other people don't know yet, it can make you feel like, whoa, look at me. But I think that if you can put those boundaries in place early, because you're going to be, if you get out of hand in any way, your guides will put you back in your place very quickly. That's just the way that it is. And so I'm very careful to know where my responsibility starts and stops, and also to just let it be. Once I have given the message, that's my job. I give the message, and then if they want to go one way or the other with it, that is their free will. It's up to them. And also to let them know, this is not a science, right? This is not 100%, and it's never going to be. This is something completely different. And so I'm very honest about the process. I'm honest with what it is. I'm honest with the way it works. And I've found very early on that one of the things I'm supposed to be doing with this is demystifying it for people, not making it seem like this is some woo-woo thing that only I can do and no one else can do, or only a few people can do. No, we can all do it to different levels, but we all can. And it's not ever going to be 100% while human beings are doing it, because we're human. We're still having a human experience, having our own experiences. And part of that experience is making mistakes, learning from them, and, picking up and moving on. So, and that's a long-winded answer, but that's,
Oh, that was
it's a
great.
difficult thing.
Great to hear. It was really great to hear. I know that when Doreen Virtue was doing a lot of her classes, that's something that she would always say, that every reading is also a reading for you. Every reading you give is
Absolutely.
also a reading for you. And that does, I'm glad you put it together that way, though. That is a great way to kind of keep a leash on your ego. If you think about that, that's kind of a simple solution. I like that. That's not easy to come up with simple solutions like that. Thank you. That's great. Okay, my next question, and I promise we'll get to some questions, because I do have a couple of questions from some readers, and then I have
Oh,
some.
sure. Yeah, whatever. I'm
Um,
here to be here.
Great. So, do you incorporate other spiritual practices with your? Now, I kind of just assumed mediumship, so my question was phrased with your mediumship, and you have said you're an intuitive empath. So,
Mhm.
I'm sorry if I'm calling you a
Yeah.
medium, but to
No,
me,
no, it's fine. And it's just language, right? It's just the language where that makes us most comfortable. I've never been comfortable with the word psychic. And I think it's because to me, it's not as relatable as intuitive. Everybody feels like I've had intuitive or intuition. I know what that is, and I'm comfortable with that. I don't know if I've had a psychic experience. So that's just the language that I use. So it's all just language.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I think a psychic is the lady with the turban on her head and can.
Right, exactly. It connotes a certain type of mystical, kind of
Yep.
magical thing, and
Yeah.
it's really not. It's
Yeah.
really not that at all. It can be. I mean, you can play it up and do whatever you want with it, but that is really so intuitive is what. And what was your question about mediumship? About,
So, do you incorporate other spiritual practices into it?
I mean, mediumship for me came later. And I think it's just your comfort level. I think you receive as you are able to comprehend and feel comfortable. I don't think your guides ever want to overwhelm you and make you stop. Because if you have an overwhelming, horrible experience, you're gonna just drop it and say, "I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm not doing this anymore."
Yeah.
But if you keep having these kind of learning experience, positive experiences, it's all kind of going in a positive direction. It's so easy to start incorporating. And mediumship kind of came later for me. And I don't think that's unusual. I think that can be that is something that is very, to me, it's almost the most sacred process that you can be involved in with this stuff, is being the the line of communication between two people that are connected through love.
Mhm.
That is a sacred place to stand,
Mhm.
right? It really, really is. And so I think you have to be ready for it in every way before you step into that space. Um, but so that came later on. So, but as far as incorporating, I mean, I have my own practice. I do love to meditate. I use all kinds of different types of meditation. Sometimes I'll do a tea meditation. Sometimes I'll do a walking meditation, depending on the day. Like I said, I'm more of a mixer upper. I don't just do one thing
Yeah.
one way every day all the time. Some people are very much like that. That's not me. And so depending on the day, it might be a 5-minute meditation. It could be an hour. It just depends on what I'm feeling like. And so I guess that answers the question, but
Uh,
yeah.
I think meditation is so good for everybody. I always encourage people to do that. And it usually, when people are asking me, how am I supposed to develop? How am I supposed to get figure out my gifts and what I'm doing? The answer is always meditation, because you'll get
Mhm.
the answers from within. And I know it's kind of boring for people to hear that all the time, but I'm glad you said meditation, because I think it's not only good for your health, it's good for your spiritual well-being. It just makes you peaceful and calm and happy,
It
It's
is. It is. And the in my recorded classes, my whole first part is about choosing your practice, how you want to kind of start putting a practice in place to connect. And I think the misconception about meditation is that there's only one kind. There's
Yes,
just sitting on the mountaintop, silent meditation,
right.
and that is one of the hardest ones to master. So I
Yeah,
th and as soon as you think, "Okay, well, I'm gonna sit in silence and not think," well, then you just start thinking, and
of course.
it's blow.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but there are so many types of meditation and mindfulness. I get a lot of I know that, like, if you know Linda G, I think you know Linda G, and yeah, and so she gets a lot of things when she drives.
Yeah.
Driving is a type of meditation. It's that when you're just in a single mode of being and you're not really thinking a bunch of stuff. You're just kind of doing one thing, and your mental state kind of diminished, or your mental chatter kind of diminishes.
Yeah.
That's when messages come in. So I know she gets a lot when she drives. When I'm just sitting there watching TV, something will pop in, and it's really a matter of being not so much in a certain state, but just being alert, because it will just pop in, it will pop in like that. And if you're alert to it and like, oh, and now I'm really aware, like, oh, that's a message. Oh, that's a message. But at first it
Mhm.
can be kind of like, why do I feel that way? Or kind of like your thing with your friend, with your gathering, where you're like, I don't know why, but we're not doing this,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not feeling it.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
just a matter of noticing it and then following it. And the
Mhm.
more you do it, the more you trust it, and the flow comes. But yeah, you can get messages in a lot of different ways, but there's so many ways to quiet that chatter. And that's all that meditation is. It's just quieting the chatter down in your mind, that constant thought process that just won't stop, just slowing it down, and making, I always say, making space between thoughts. That's how I think of it. And so
Oh,
you
that's
can
nice.
use breathing, you can use music, there's lots of different things you can do. It's not just one thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's what turns people off sometimes. It's kind of like, oh, meditation, I can't do that. It's too, I have to be really in the mood to do silent meditation. So that is, it's a great one to master, but it is one of the harder ones to do, so people
Yeah.
shouldn't be discouraged at all. Find one that fits you.
Yeah.
There's one out there that will.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like my knitting and crocheting, and I have
Absolutely.
lots and lots of knitted and crocheted just blobs, because I'm not following a pattern. I'm just letting it go with my hands. And I've
Yeah.
never been great at either one of those things. I think I've only produced two things in my entire life that anybody could, but it is a great way to meditate and to turn off your
Yep.
mind. And it's that little bit of physical activity that allow,
Mhm.
like driving, that allows
I
you to
like that, and
kind of
that's what I'm doing when I'm doing my circles here on the paper,
yeah,
that's exactly what I'm doing,
yeah,
exactly the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And the last question, I think you may have already answered, but I'll ask it anyway. Why did you start a YouTube channel?
I kept getting the same message over and over again, and it felt, um and that had actually never happened to me before.
Oh,
Usually, I would have, like, a little message, and I would either follow it or not follow, it was very, and when I read it, I would just read and it would be done. This was a constant, it was like a record playing. It
uh-huh.
kept coming and coming and coming, and like I said, I tried to get my sister to do it because she was just more involved in doing regular card readings and stuff. She was just seemed more, to me,
Better
better
fit.
prepared to do something like that.
Yeah,
I had no
yeah,
idea how to do anything. I didn't barely use the computer, so I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Um, so I just thought, at least I'm going to do one, and whatever happens happens, but at least that record player will stop. I'll know I did the thing I
yeah,
was supposed to do. I
yeah,
got it out there, and then that's it. And I also knew it needed to be like, it needed to be YouTube. It needed to be out there in a bigger way than just like
yeah,
calling people that I knew on the phone.
yeah,
And also, I also had the knowledge very early on that the people that needed to find me would find me. I
yeah.
never look at the numbers. I don't really think about that stuff. I just inherently knew that the people that would find me would find me. And I let it go and just leave it at that.
So, well, we're all so glad that you did because we're all watching you. So that's
Oh, thank
it's
you.
really, really good that you did. All right. So
Thank
now,
you.
now on to the reader questions. So let's see, what's the first reader question? This is from JDDJ, and she has a bunch of questions. So the first
Okay.
one is it's person. The first one is personal. I hope that's
Okay.
okay. She
Sure.
says, does my son Alec complete his time in the Marine Corps? He got heat stroke a few weeks back on a 15-mile hike.
What is the son's name again?
Alec, ALEC.
Okay, so right away, so I'm hearing setback and I'm hearing will. And when I when I feel that, it feels like it's kind of like it's up to him. He's going to have some setbacks. This is one.
Mhm.
And that it's going to be kind of up to his will to continue. That tells me too that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to come easy. So, but I also feel like, um, that there's something about where he is that, there's something about it that feels like he's supposed to be there. He's supposed to be there, but it's not going to be easy, and his will is going to get him through. So if he can dig deep when these kinds of things come up, he will stay in. Um, it's so that's where, so when you ask a question like that, what my guides do and what his guides do, because I feel like his guides have kind of stepped forward and saying, this, they're showing a probability, and they're also letting us know again that that cutoff of responsibility, he has free will. I can't just be like, yes, he's going to, he will do it perfectly and he will get through. He's going to have a million little things that he's going to have to make decisions about every single day. Do I want to get up today? Do I want to do what my, whatever the ranking is, sergeant says or whatever? So, but I'm hearing those things very clearly, that he's going to have some setbacks and it's going to be his will. But as I say that too, I'm feeling like, and I'm getting chills because I know what I'm about to say, but I'm feeling like this also builds his will for other things that come later. So it's kind of like it's where he's supposed to be, and whatever he gets out of this experience, it will serve him well later. So it's so of course he can finish. Of course he can if he wants to. Of course he can. But it's going to take some will on his part. And even if he doesn't, that will that he does put into it, even if it's a little bit, will serve him well later on. I hope that
Great.
makes sense.
Great. Wonderful answer. That's great. All right. Her next question. Does Biden change the taxes back to the way they were before Trump changed them?
So, well, I'll just say I'm getting that. Um, to me, that is something that will happen after the midterms. To me, it feels like several things, boom, 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 in a row after the midterms. I keep getting that. I know historically what they say about the midterms coming up. I know what people keep saying. I know Republicans are overconfident right now about how they're going to do. I really, really feel like it's going to be a bad year for them. It's going to be one of those things where everybody, pollsters and everybody are going to be like, we don't know what happened. The Democrats won again, and here we are again. Because I feel like that's what's going to happen. And then after that, it's going to be like boom, boom, boom. A bunch of things pass because it's almost like Republicans have permission now to kind of let go of some of this more extreme stuff and the
Yeah.
direction they're going. It's like, okay, we lost again. We have to switch it up now. Clearly, we're not in step with the country anymore. We need to move back and be more moderate and more normal. I would say more normal. I mean, we can say whatever we want, but more normal. And so that's how, and again, when you ask that question, that's exactly the way I'm seeing it play out again. It's like after the midterms, it's like boom, boom, boom. And taxes is one of those things.
Okay.
And I feel like it's going to be very different for the upper, like the Elon Musks and those, they're kind of not going to know what hit them. They're going to get hit, not hard in the big sense of the word, because they're still going to be extremely rich, but they're going to get a reality check as far as like, okay, this is the way things are going to be now. You're not going to be coasting and paying no taxes anymore.
Right.
Those days are done.
Yeah.
I don't know. She didn't even ask that question, but that's how I see it playing out.
Well, okay. And her next question is, will the GOP implode in public for all to see?
I just heard very, very clearly they are. Like, it's kind of like it's already started. And they're showing me a kind of angry, kind of red-faced, like Lindsey Graham, and just talking about how a lot of the things that they have been saying and doing lately aren't going to age well. They're going to kind of haunt them. So whether we know it or not right now, it's happening right now. We're seeing it, even though it's not really like we have context yet for it. But they're doing it now. It's just that in a couple of years, it's like, oh my gosh, why do they? He's going to be so embarrassed of the things he said, or he'll be regretful of the things he said But we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
We don't have all the context yet, but it's already begun, basically. Is kind of the answer I'm getting. And Phil, if you get, you're clair-knowing, Colleen, if you get anything different, or if you're able to validate anything, let me know.
Yeah, as soon as I asked you the question, I just thought it's already happening. It's already
Exactly that.
here. Like there's no question. Okay, so I do see there's one question in the chat, so I will try to come back to it for Karen Robinson, but there's a couple more here. So I'll just do I'll just do one more of JD's, and then we'll do Karen's, and then we'll see how much time we have, and then maybe we'll do some other ones. Okay, so I love this question from her. She says, "Do pets choose each other like humans choose their families?"
Do pets choose each other like humans? So you mean if there's like 2 dogs in a family, do they choose each other like that? Is that
Yeah,
what that
yeah.
question means?
And baby dogs coming to mother dogs and things like that, I guess, too.
Okay. So, I'm getting that it's kind of like yes and no because it is they can have had experiences together in other lifetimes. Maybe they were like these 2 dogs and now they're 2 horses in this lifetime. And so there can be that like that soul kind of connection with pets, just like humans. And to me, it's different though, because with soul families, I feel like it's more about the um like we work well together. We work well experiencing things together. And so that's why we travel in a pack. It's like that's why we learn together, we do that well together. And so that's why we're kind of all and there is that love factor. Don't get me wrong, there's always that love factor, but to me it's with animals it feels more like it is more about just pure connection. I feel connected. Not so much like we work well together. It's more like we are connected. So there's something that's almost more pure about it in a way. It's not as experience based. It's more about, and that's animals in general, right? They're here to whenever I ask about why animals are with us at all, it's always to teach us about unconditional love and being in the now. With even if it's you know our pets, it's like unconditional love, being in the now. With animals in general, it's being in the now. They're always present. They're never lost in the past and the future. They're here and now, and it's a constant reminder to us. So in a way, their connection in when they pick their family or when they come together again, it's more because we're connected. We like the connection
Mhm.
between us. It's not so much we should come together so we can learn this thing together. It's almost more pure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's all about love. It's
Right.
all love,
For all
love,
of it,
love.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, with animals, it's even more pure in a way. Um, there's there's no other kind of uh, pretext to it. It's just that. It's like we are just connected. So we'll come in as we'll come in and be in the same family, or we'll come in like you said as a mom and a puppy. It's like we are connected.
And
Um,
do you think that, like humans, that, animals might choose their human families?
so I'm getting yes, that can happen. Um, and it can also be that um, there's a connection between the pet soul and the human soul that it's almost like bringing along a comfort blanket with you. It's like this, like you always show up somehow. You're always,
Yeah.
you show up somehow in my life to kind of comfort me and get me through. And also again, to bring in that unconditional love
Mhm.
and not because I have a sister who is we're all dog people in my family, but I have one sister who's kind of like, I don't care about, I don't care if I have a dog. I don't care if I don't. It's fine either way. Um, she doesn't have that she clearly doesn't have that same kind of need for that kind of unconditional love, that constant presence, that comfort that's there. And I do. And so we these little doggies seem to find me and I rescue them, and but that's how it is. And so it's, to me, it's very individual, but as a whole I think it can be either or. I think it can be like we've traveled lifetimes together, and it can also just be like you're like this is just they're coming in to serve a purpose for that life, for what you need right now. They're coming in to serve that purpose. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. So she does have two other questions. But what I want to do is I'm going to hop over to this question from Karen because she says, Dad has been dead 10 years tomorrow. Is he able to send any greeting to my mother?
so okay, so there's a couple things. And how it's coming in is a lot of different heart things for some reason. So it's coming in like sweetheart, but also literal hearts, but also something about Valentine's Day as well. So yeah, I'm getting chills with that. So there's something about Valentine's Day. So I don't know if that's just a hard day for her in general, or there is something about Valentine's Day that's like something about it. But and I realize it's not Valentine's Day, it's Easter time right now, it's springtime. But there is something about sweetheart and hearts and my Valentine, it's and it so that and this is the thing, and this is a good teachable moment because I'm getting like a barrage of those like visions, like pictures, and that's the barrage that's coming in, and then the feeling is just like utter love, just love, love, love. So and again, I'm getting stuff like that seem to pinpoint Valentine's or Valentine's Day or my Valentine. So I that's what I'm getting, and I'm interpreting it as there's something about Valentine's Day. There's something about you know, a very uh, a very strong love that still exists, and I also feel like it's like that hasn't changed at all. It's not different. It's not changed at all. It's still there. And to me, it feels like a very romantic love, like almost like teenagers, like young love is what it feels like. It doesn't have like my pal, and I have things like that where it feels like we're each other's, best friend, that kind of thing. This feels like love. And just, yeah, that's just what comes in. So that's what you can tell her.
So
And
Karen wrote in the chat, she says, I wrote a screenplay about his love for my mother. He was from the South and talked like Foghorn Leghorn, darling, sweetheart. Yeah.
okay.
And all that stuff about Valentine's. I know that song, My Funny Valentine. Somebody, desert artist, wrote that in there. And I was thinking about that song too, because that's for that era, for those people. She's going to be 97. She's probably right around my mom's generation, who's already passed. And,
Right.
those kinds of songs are just, they'll
Right.
always, that's our song or whatever. I don't know if it's her song.
And
But
that romance, right? It's that feeling of romance, and that is what it feels like. And so it's almost, it does feel like that feeling that he has for her has not changed one iota. He is completely in love with this woman still, in love with mom.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. Very much. Oh, that's great. Well, are you up for a couple more questions? Or we've been an hour. Okay. There.
Sure. Yeah. No, we're fine.
Fine. Okay. So back to questions from JD, because she had a whole bunch of them. In the future, will there ever be a draft with women on it, since they can now hold the same jobs as men? So draft, I'm assuming she means for armed forces.
Not in the way like, in Israel, they have where everybody has to serve in the armed services. So it won't be like that. But I do feel like it's kind of like they'll have they'll start having more of the same kinds of incentives for women
Mhm.
to join the military and to be in the military. So
Mhm.
women will just be more present because it will make sense. They'll have a need for the same types of and there's something about a new kind of that's just coming up. There's something about a new kind of GI Bill. So there's going to be kind of college something that's a little bit more, to me, it feels more robust. And so I feel like it will pull more women in. Um, when the first GI Bill came in, that was around my dad's generation, and men took advantage of that, right? Because
Yeah,
it was men
yeah,
had to raise, to take care of the family and whatever. Women weren't really, they didn't. But it's going to be stuff like that where I feel like women they'll just be more incentivized to do it. There'll be things that women want to have, and that um so they'll be kind of but not drafted, not really like made to do it. It will be more like, but they'll want to, because there'll be things they can get from it that they want now. Maybe they didn't generations ago, but they do now.
yeah, that sounds right. That sounds really right. Okay, and this is JD's last question. Do you see
JD.
she's prolific in her questions? Thank goodness. Um, she says, do you see the cancel culture going back to normal? For example, they want Snow White removed because the prince didn't get her consent to kiss her. So is cancel culture going to keep going, or is it going to, are things going to kind of calm down and go back to normal?
It'll I mean, to use a 70s term, it'll mellow out. It will kind of um there's a reactivity going on right now,
Mhm.
um and it's because for a long time, nobody was saying anything about anything. So it was just kind of like people would get offended or upset or whatever, but nobody was saying anything or doing anything. And now everybody's saying everything and doing everything because it's like it's okay now. So it will mellow out, but I do feel like one thing that I'm seeing that's going to be changing is almost like um, disclaimers, or historical context before movies. So, for example, like a movie like Gone with the Wind, they would put before the movie, this was made in da 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 time period. This book was written in da 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 time period, and this was what was happening at the time. Enjoy the movie. So it's almost like we're able to put it in context before we see it, so that we're not offended by it, or we're not like, oh my gosh, they're the whatever. I see that more taking place actually more down the road, almost like a warning or disclaimer or something, to make people kind of, okay, we as a society, we're aware of this, but it's still part of film history, or it's still part of TV history, or books. It's still part of, I'm thinking of, like, Huckleberry Finn. There's things in there that could be extremely, not okay today,
Mhm.
but it's a classic in literature, and it was a certain time, and being able to hold those two thoughts in your head, that it can be a great piece of literature, but also, dated and wrong for now. You've got to be able to hold two things in your head at the same time, that both things can be true. But so that's more what I see coming later on, but it will mellow out, and they'll find some remedies like that to make people feel like, okay, we're still having this piece of art or this piece of literature or this film, but we're putting it in its proper context and proper place, and that we
Yeah.
understand this is wrong now, but this is how it was. That
Yeah,
kind of
because it's a little bit of a history lesson that way, because that's the way you have to take it.
right,
People did talk like that. I mean, they did in Gone with the Wind, or in the 40s, the 1940s, and the 1950s, the 1960s. There were all these changing ways that people were treated. Well, women were treated and minorities were treated.
right,
They just changed and changed, but they never got really great, but they
right.
just kept changing. And that is a little piece of history. So to
Yes,
completely ignore it would really be a shame, because you'd miss that
right.
little piece of history. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um,
And it's part of that thing of being able to, again, hold two thoughts in your head that, that America, we've gone through all of these changes, and because we're here now doesn't mean where we were was bad. It's just where we were at the time. We didn't understand. We didn't know that, we weren't there yet. And now we're here. So it's like a whole, we can still honor that time and honor that project or honor that thing, and know just that's where we were at the time. And now we know better. When you
Yes.
know better, you do better. And so now we're doing that. And now going forward, you won't see stuff like they had in Gone with the, I mean, I hate pick on Gone with the Wind. It's a great movie, but it has stuff in it that's dated and racist. And so now we know that. And so going forward, you won't see that like that anymore. But you don't junk stuff because we didn't know at the time, or we weren't aware at the time. It wasn't to offend anyone. It's just where we were at that time. And now we know better. And in a way, it's a great teaching tool. It's a great teaching tool to show how you can change in a society and grow up, right?
And to put into context how far we've come or how far we haven't.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not a bad thing. And plus, I'm sorry, but Scarlett O'Hara taught us all to recycle. Take those curtains down and
Yes, exactly.
come on. Now, who else was doing that? Not Lauren Bacall.
Exactly. She was so ahead of her time.
So ahead of her time. So ahead of her time. All right. So it's been about an hour and 10 minutes. And I know you have a busy schedule. Are you, do we need to cut this off? What do you want to do?
I'm okay for another like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm
10
good.
15 minutes. Okay. So let me just check here and see. I think there was another question somewhere up here. From Denise Carringer. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. It says, Kim, does my deceased friend Michael have anything to say to me today, please?
Okay, so Denise, and this is a disclaimer. This is someone I know, but I feel like there's something about today that he wants to tell you that you're hearing him. He wants you to know that, and I feel like I don't know if there's some doubt there for you right now, or there's kind of like, am I going crazy, or am I what? But he's saying you're hearing him. So I feel like you've got you've hit a point, and I'm getting chills with this. So you've hit a point, or you've hit a speed bump where it's kind of like or a turning point where you really need to just trust that you're hearing him at this point. There isn't any doubt that you are, and he's like, because you're asking, and just in case, and maybe today's a difficult day, I'm not sure what's going on, but he's like, you're hearing me. That's the message. You're hearing me. So just know that you're hearing him. Okay. So don't doubt that anymore. Or if you have, we all have those days, but he's letting you know you are hearing me. So when you have those days, remember this message. Okay.
Okay. She has another question too while you're on
Okay.
on her channel here. Mother died last year. Her birthday would be tomorrow, April 7th. Does she have anything to say to me, please?
And when did she pass away?
She let's see. I missed her thing. Last year.
Okay. Okay, so she's okay, so she's came in and she's like, I'm here. So I feel like there's a wanting you to know, like, she made it. She's on the other side. She's there, but she's letting you know she's definitely here. She's definitely here. She is also giving me a song. She's giving me a Willie Nelson song that it's at least I don't know if it's his original song, but you're always on my mind. You're always on my mind. So I feel it. So that there's that song. So, and I always tell when I get songs, I tell people look up the lyrics because there's probably a whole thing in there about for the message. But I also feel like it's kind of like when she comes to your mind, she's trying to connect with you or she's with you. And so be aware of that. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. And then I think this is the last question in here. It's from Arlene Forney, and she says, "Today is my mother's birthday. Is there a message from her on the other side? She's been gone now for 11 years." Oh, Arlene, that's the same year my mother died.
Oh,
2011. Good year.
so, and what is the person's name again?
Arlene Forney.
Arlene. Okay, so Arlene, this is not an accident. This is not an accident that this happened, and it's today. Because I feel like she's kind of like even on the other side, I'm organizing. It's like even on the other side, I'm figuring this out. I'm doing what I would be doing here. I'm doing there. It's like, and so I got chills with that. So it's almost like she's very, very proud of herself that she was able to pull this off. But she because I can feel like her laughter and her just like she just thinks this is just amazing that she pulled this off. So she's doing what she would normally be doing here, she's doing there, and she did it to you here. So she wants you to know that, kind of know that she's very, very aware of your need and desire to connect with her often. She wanted to wow you. That's what she was trying to, that's what this is about. It's like, wow, okay, mom is really doing this. But so there's something about a wow factor that she wanted to kind of show you or solidify for you today. So when those messages come in, whether it's a dream or it's a bird come to your window or whatever it is, I feel like she's kind of like, believe it. She this is a she's, like I said, she's very proud of today. She's very proud of the way she made this, she pulled this off. So just know that that she is you need to start believing those little signs or things you think that could be my mom. You need to start believing them. Okay, this is like, it's almost like this is your proof today. This is your proof that she's reaching out, and she's trying to reach out to you. And when you think of her or things come to you where it's like, I think that's my mom, or that could be my mom, believe it. Okay, believe it.
That's great. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I think we've gone about as long as we can go. Thank you so much, Kim. This has just
You're
been great.
welcome.
I know the people in the chat were just excited as all get out to get their questions answered. And I was all excited as all get out just to have you here. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's in the chat. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so guys, what do you
Thank
say? We're
you.
gonna have to have her back, right? We have to have Kim back for another session,
Oh, thank
right?
you. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Colleen, for having me, and good luck with your channel. And I will definitely, I'll mention your channel, and just so I know what do you do on your channel? I mean, besides talk
Oh,
to people like me, what do you do on your
so
channel?
I do astrology and tarot, and
Uh-huh.
I do new moon readings where I give predictions for all the signs. I do full moon readings, same thing, predictions for all the signs, and then I
Mhm.
do separate videos that just address the time period in between the full moon and new moon, the new moon and full moon, so that people kind of know what's going on. I do tarot scopes. I do monthly tarot scopes for all the signs. I do angel card readings, and I do a lot of pick a card readings. And once
Mhm.
in a while, I'll do a little celebrity reading or royal family reading or something like that. And I usually don't do politics, not because I don't like it. I love politics. I think it's juicy, but I just get a little too wrapped up in it, and um, it's too emotional for me, and I worry that I'm gonna just say things that are really derogatory about people because I have a sharp tongue, and so I have done a little bit, like when I interviewed Danny Shea, we did a couple of political things, and I just really
Mhm.
tried to get myself to step back and be cool, Colleen. So,
It
but
is it is a thing you have to push your ego out of the way, and I'm sure that there are times I'm not successful doing that. I do my very best, but that side comes out on Twitter where I feel like I can
there
just
you go.
say what I want to say. But yeah, I understand that. So,
Yeah.
well, that's great. Yeah, you do a lot of stuff. So that's
do.
awesome.
I do. And maybe I should get on Twitter because maybe that would,
Yeah.
let my political flag
I don't know if that's a
fly.
good thing or a bad thing. I
Yeah,
don't know.
whatever. All right, everybody. We're gonna wrap this up here. Thank you again, everybody, for coming, and thanks for the chats and all the questions and everything. It was just fantabulous. And we're gonna have Kim back as soon as we can. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'll see you
you.
guys later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.